I was chatting with a friend who runs a small community church, and he was nervous about splurging on a new camera for their live stream. He told me he'd heard about AI-powered auto tracking, but the last thing he wanted was a piece of gear that looks cool on the spec sheet and then turns into a headache during the service. He asked me to help him figure out whether the AVKANS Studio 4K camera is worth the investment or if he'd be better off sticking with his trusty camcorder. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the thing that draws most people to this model is the claim of Gen 2 AI auto tracking, with a feature called Presenter Lock. In a live worship setting, that means you can set the camera down, walk onto the stage, and the system will keep you framed without a tech person constantly nudging a joystick. For anyone who's juggling preaching, reading slides, and greeting people, that hands-free tracking can be a genuine time saver. The camera also sports a 20 optical zoom and a 1/1.8 in CMOS sensor, which theoretically gives you enough reach to capture a full-width shot of the sanctuary and then pull in on the speaker without losing detail. Now, let's talk about how it actually feels in a real-world scenario. I set it up in a modest 200-square-foot worship space, mounted it on a ceiling grid using the Power over Ethernet option, and connected the HDMI output to a hardware encoder. The auto-tracking worked out of the box after a quick calibration in the AVKANS Live Multicam app on an iPhone. The presenter moved from the pulpit to the choir loft, and the camera smoothly panned and zoomed, keeping the subject centered. The tracking algorithm didn't lock onto every stray hand in the audience, which is a common complaint with cheaper AI trackers, so you get a fairly clean frame most of the time. However, the system isn't flawless. In low-light conditions, think early morning prayer service with only a few spotlights, the sensor struggled a bit. The image got a noticeable amount of noise, and the autofocus occasionally hunted before settling. If you plan to use this camera for dimly lit worship or for cinematic interviews with soft lighting, you'll probably need to add some supplemental lights or accept that the footage won't be as crisp as a dedicated low-light cam. That's a trade-off you should weigh, especially if your budget for lighting is tight. Battery confidence is another practical point. The AVKANS Studio 4K doesn't rely on an internal battery for its primary operation. It draws power from the PO connection or from an external 12V source. That's a huge plus for continuous streaming because you don't have to worry about swapping out batteries mid-service. On the flip side, if you want to run it off USB-C for a more portable setup, say, a traveling ministry or a small outdoor event, you'll need a reliable power bank that can deliver consistent voltage. Otherwise, you might see occasional drops in the video feed. When it comes to lens flexibility, the built-in 20 zoom covers a broad range, but you can't swap out lenses. For most churches, that's fine. You get wide shots of the sanctuary and tight shots of the speaker without changing optics. If you're a freelance videographer who likes to switch between prime lenses for different looks, this camera might feel limiting. The zoom motor is fairly quiet, which is great for live productions where microphone bleed from a noisy focus ring can be distracting. The menu system is another area where the camera shows both strength and weakness. The on-camera controls are minimal, mostly a power button, a menu dial, and a few shortcut keys. All the deeper settings live in the iOS app, which means you need an iPhone or iPad nearby. The app interface is clean and intuitive for basic tasks like selecting the video format, HDMI, SDI, or USB 2.0, and toggling the AI tracking. But if you're digging into advanced color profiles or want to fine-tune exposure curves, the app can feel a bit cramped. There's no desktop software, so you're stuck with a mobile-only workflow, which might not sit well with seasoned producers who prefer a full-featured control panel. So, who should actually consider buying this camera? If you're running a ministry, a small church, or a community center that wants to upgrade from a static camcorder to something that can track speakers automatically, the AVKANS Studio 4K checks a lot of boxes. It's also a solid entry point for hobbyist live streamers who want a set-it-and-forget-it solution without learning the intricacies of a full PTZ rig. The post support makes installation clean, and the lack of a battery means you can run it all day without interruption. On the other hand, if you're a professional production house that demands low-light performance, interchangeable lenses, or a tactile control surface, you'll likely be better served by a more expensive broadcast-grade PTZ system. The AI tracking, while impressive for its price, still has occasional hiccups with fast motion or crowded backgrounds, and the app-centric menu